I am Gaurav and welcome to Fleet on Reels powered by Fleetx. In this series, we talk with industry experts in the field of logistics and try to learn and understand what made them successful, their vision, their viewpoints on various topics in this domain, and so much more. So let's get started. Our guest on this episode is Mr. Jehaan Kotwal. Now, frankly, in our domain, Jehan is someone who does not need any introduction. He is the CEO at JFK Transporters Private Limited, which is a well-known logistic firm across India. Apart from this, he has tons of other achievements on his name in a very short span of time. We are very excited to have him on the show. Jehan, hi, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi Gaurav, happy to be here. Thank you so much for that kind introduction.
You're welcome, Jehan. So, Jehan, you're based in Mumbai, right?
Yes,
So, how is the COVID situation there?
so as of today, 7th May, I believe it's slightly improving. It was very bad
Mm-hmm.
a week ago, and
Right.
things are getting better. But across this country, of course, the situation is very different, and I hope things will get better now that the lockdowns are imposed. But for the time being, it's quite challenging.
Right, right. And how is everyone at family and at the company? Is doing good?
We've had a couple of cases reported in the company, and that's why we shut down all our offices. Everybody's working remotely, except for
Okay.
our loading and unloading points where the drivers have to go. Because
Mm-hmm.
business, we move oxygen tanks for a lot of the prestigious gas companies like Linde, Praxair, Airwater.
Right.
So we have about 30 tanks running with them. So we can't stop operations. And like logistics, there is no such thing as a holiday, and we come under
Absolutely.
essentials, so essential services.
Yeah.
So it has to keep running, whether you are having COVID or not is irrelevant. Whether you are alive or dead is irrelevant. The business goes on.
Right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. So, Jehan, starting from the basics, as far as I know, you have started your journey in the logistics business in 2030, right? And since then, you have opened up several new offices. You have relied a lot on technology. You have focused on hiring smart people. So, what has helped you in achieving this feat? Like, what are the things that you executed differently that helped you in becoming what you are today?
So to be honest, Gaurav, I don't think I've achieved anything. It's not even been a drop in the ocean. We need to be at 1,000 vehicles and become the best transport company in India, and that's the vision. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think what we do try to do towards reaching that vision is that we focus on the main values, which is uh, very difficult to see in the transport industry. Number one, we focus on honesty, and regardless of good bad situations, we speak the truth. The second is we work, I would say, outwork everybody else. It's just a very there's no shortcut around that. This is a very tough line. You have to work even tougher, and there's no substitute to hard work. And the third thing, in terms of a core value, is in a way we call it working smart. But what we mean by that is thinking out of the box, innovating, coming up with new ideas, and being smart about your work. So those are the kind of three values we stick by. And the idea behind even growing the company and teaching, because my father was a truck driver, that's how he began his journey. And
Okay.
for us, we were very happy with even the 10 trucks that we had. To grow to the scale that we have today has been majorly because of the fact that we want to encourage employment. We want to help people, serve their families, make sure children's education is done. That's why all our drivers are covered under ESIC. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we pay almost, I would say, 15 to 20% higher than the industry benchmark. So those are the ways which, if you look after the driver, your business is taken care of. So most people don't really understand that, and they try to exploit the driver. But those are the things we do differently.
Right. It's great to hear about it, Jehan, that you are still trying to bring value into your business because the businesses that has value in it are always sure to prosper. So, Jehan, as we discussed a few minutes back, that the COVID situation has impacted different industries badly, and logistics is one of them. So maybe this is first time ever in the history of India that most of the logistic operations were stopped during the time of the lockdown previous year. So, how did it impact your business? Like, how strongly did it impact? And what did you do to ensure that it is free flowing again?
So the first lockdown, is that the question?
Yeah, since starting from the first lockdown.
So I think the first lockdown was sorry, your voice was cracking. I'm sorry if I overspoke. But the first lockdown was
No,
quite traumatic.
see. Uh, yes, please continue, Jehan. I can hear you.
Sorry. The first lockdown was quite traumatic. It came as a shock to everyone. First few weeks were horrifyingly bad because drivers didn't have, they were stopped at the checkposts. There was no proper system. Food became a shortage. Everybody panicked. People thought they're gonna not be able to survive. A few days, migrant laborers, everything was just crazy. And I think it took a while to settle in. And it took about a month or two to get the vehicles back and running. A lot of the drivers, some of them decided to go back to their villages, so we had to try and arrange that. Some of them, we gave them accommodation. It was a pretty bad situation. Um, the second lockdown has been relatively better off in comparison to the first one. And of course, business is not at 100%. It was just reaching there last month. But sorry, did you say something? I couldn't hear you.
No. I did not say anything. Please continue.
So the second lockdown has been relatively better off, but we still are. I would say we're not at 100% efficiency yet. We would be somewhere around at the lockdown time, close to around 60 to 70%. Um, we were almost there at about 90-95%. And the first experience was extremely bad, but luckily because of the moratorium given by the government, if that would not have been given, I would pretty much sure that 90% of our transport industry would have collapsed because we rely heavily on debt for our trucks. So that was a relatively decent relief that we got. But still, um, you know, I think there's more that could be done, but whatever was done was in the best of interest for the country.
Right. And as you said that the times are improving now, and just like every other industry, there are a little spaces for us to ensure that the business is going well, that it can be managed. Right.
Sure.
So Jehan, starting from 2013 until now, uh, what are the core problems you feel that you have faced in this logistic industry that are very crucial, that are very troublesome, and that needs to be addressed?
Hmm. Then we should spend half an evening in these 6 hours together because it's a very good question. Uh, I like to begin everything with starting from ground zero, which is look at the first principle thinking also. And, when you look at uh, where it all begins, it's typically from the driver. And, there is from social status to pay to, you know, what do you call for his working hours. A lot of that is very unregulated, unfortunately, and that's why they're being exploited. One of the things we're very careful of doing is now we've started a new initiative for them, and I can talk about that in more detail if you all are interested, is what we're doing for the truck drivers on road safety. But coming to the challenges, that's the biggest, that's where it kind of starts. And then, of course, as a transporter and a fleet owner, as a transporter, you're always paid last. Everybody thinks a transporter makes a lot of money. But the truth is, the margins are wafer thin, and it's not a feasible business by any stance. I've realized this after a lot of years now. Uh, I think fundamentally, this business is not so great because of a couple of reasons, but it's also has its good sides. Uh, when this pandemic went on, like it did, we our business still was running. It may not have been running profitably, but it was still running versus restaurants and other tourism kind of companies. Um, That's the good side. The bad side is that uh, your your overall way of doing business, because of the nature of our line, people don't pay you. Sometimes they forget paying you on time. That is an impossible thing, but they don't end up paying you itself. It's because of our system being so archaic. There's no strong justice system around corporates for delaying payments, etc. Now NCLT and all has come in, but otherwise it was a big pain. If you ever, I don't know if you run your own enterprise, but once you do the business, then getting the money is another equally worse task. And so I think those things, bring in inefficiency in the system. Those things bring in layers. You need a transporter, a broker, a truck driver, and so that's all unnecessarily layers. And that's why we startups like Blackbuck and other aggregator companies pretty much been able to kill a lot of the other transporters who are doing this kind of stuff. So there's a huge opportunity in this space. It's a lot of things you can do with innovative ideas, but
Okay.
at the same time, the challenges are also equivalent. There's a reason why these companies haven't been able to. A lot of companies, startups, haven't been able to break even or become profitable. So it's difficult.
Right. So very well explained, Jehan. And Jehan, to all the things that you explained, there's one more thing that I want to add about is that one of the decade-old problems that the Indian logistics industry has been facing is that of cargo theft. Like in recently also we had organized a webinar at Fleetx where experts came together and discussed about the solutions that technology can bring about in cargo theft. So Jehan, have you at a personal front with your company faced the issues of cargo theft, or have you happened to deal with any of such things?
Mm, Not cargo theft, but we've had during lockdown drivers take our trucks and go home. So those things have happened without our permission, of course. And after reaching the destination, they've informed us, okay, here's your, luckily not with anybody's material, but
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing has happened. And so maybe during those drivers, of course, are not there with us anymore and been blacklisted. But what's interesting is that at times like those, if it would have happened, we could have, if we had remote access to switch off the engine, which is a technology we're also hoping to get in at some stage, we could have avoided those things. But it is a big challenge now, especially with the vaccines running about, getting missing and drivers leaving and things like that. You're seeing that would be a very important piece to play in. Cargo theft, unfortunately, in India, because of our, again, the vastness of our country, you can't really blame the police always. It's very difficult to get an FIR. It's very difficult for them to track, and so it's a big pain to deal with. I've been blessed that way. It hasn't happened in our company, but it could be a nightmare for a transporter. One consignment also a year, and as you grow larger, the odds of it happening are also higher because you can't. Systems can only be made, and that's why you don't have any large fleet owner in India. Typically, the largest ones will have max 3,000, 4,000 fleet. Um, you don't have anyone over 5,000, 7,000 owned trucks. Um, so yeah, those are the inherent challenges, especially first generation. Maybe somebody who's been doing it for 40 years, 50 years. That's a separate issue. But typically, it's cargo theft is something that it's not an easy fix. Even with GPS, even with a remote access switch, if somebody wants to rob the vehicle, they can. So it's not so difficult. Um, Unless you embed it inside the engine, and those, but though that can happen only in your latest vehicles, BS6 vehicles, etc. It's not easily possible to do that in your prior 8 million trucks. So those are the couple of challenges.
Exactly. Yes, very well said. And uh, as you said, Jehan, that we also as an industry are trying to make the best things possible, in terms of technology through AI, and ensuring that we minimize these challenges for different fleet owners and operators across the country. You mentioned during your talk, Jehan, that the transportation, cold storage logistics, just now as the vaccines have boomed in India, the importance of cold storage logistics has improved. Like it is in huge demand. But do you really think, Jehan, that the infrastructure of cold storage logistics in India is stable? Like, are we underprepared to execute this humongous task of transporting such vaccines to nook and corners of the country very easily?
So I have spoken to a lot of friends of mine who run cold chain because I'm very involved in community service. And honestly, I don't see the logistics as a problem. One truck of vaccine, I believe, I mean, 3 or 4 trucks of vaccine can cover whole of Bombay. So in one truck, hundreds and thousands, I think some 12 or 15 lakh doses go. So you don't need extra cold chain vehicles, number one. The existing infrastructure can take care of those. Remotely giving it, what do you call, is something that when the vaccines are available, it will be looked at. Currently, the challenge is that, that only is a big issue. So I think it's not something that can't be executed. It's quite an easy task. What will be a challenging task, what I foresee as what we are already facing since the last 10-15 days, is been the logistics of oxygen, because you have approximately a consumption of 7,000 tons, a procurement of 7,000 tons. We actually have 60,000 tons total procurement, but the supply chain can only carry 7,000. The demand is 9,000. So right now, that's why they're flying trucks from one point of the country to the other, because the turnaround time is not as fast, and we have a limited amount of cryogenic tanks. So in my opinion, that's what we've been focused on for the last 10 days as well, is how do we increase the turnaround time, make it more efficient. That's actually a far bigger challenge. Vaccines, it's still very easily doable. Anyone with in even my next year's experience in cold chain can execute it. You don't need more than 3 players to cover the whole country to do this.
Great, great. So, when you say about as you said that you have been included in that chain of transporting oxygen to different states, to different centers, right? So, the one thing that you have been also working for it day and night in one of in one foundation. जो drivers है who start from point A to get that oxygen concentrators or get that liquid oxygen supplied to point B without stopping, selflessly serving the society. Or it will not be wrong if I say that they are the unsung heroes in today's time when India is suffering from the shortage of oxygen crisis. They are not paid anything extra for that. They are just serving, and they know the importance of the situation. So, what is your take on the situation of those drivers who are doing it selflessly for their country in these challenging times when it is equally difficult for them also to go out?
Excellent question. Let me tell you how. First, let me tell you the solution and what can be done. So we have a foundation for truck drivers called HumSafer Driver Safety Foundation. The idea there was to improve road safety using technology on the roads. Alert drivers when they're over speeding, etc. Our solution to make this entire supply chain of liquid oxygen not only efficient. So what we've done is we've made a mobile application that helps truck drivers. We can incentivize them in real time based on their driving kilometers. We of course we'll be insuring them worth about 1 to 2 lakh rupees of COVID insurance, and we'll be vaccinating them after giving them the tagline of frontline warriors. So we've started a fundraising campaign for all the truck drivers in the country. We plan to do this across 10,000 drivers, giving them approximately in a total of 500 rupees insurance, 1,200 for the vaccine, 800 for driver welfare, 3,000 incentive, 500 on ground cost, comes to about 6,000 rupees. So we're raising about 6 crores for that. And with good CSR partners, hopefully in the next few weeks we should achieve that target and then be able to disperse those funds to these drivers. The idea is that if we can improve our efficiency by even 5% by incentivizing these drivers at least 3,000 a month, um, we'll be able to save about 300 tons of oxygen extra, which will in turn will be able to save about 2,700 lives a day. So it's a huge it's a huge project that we're trying to push across. Hopefully, if the ministry and other corporates come on board fast, then we can definitely execute this at lightning speed. Um, the big thing here is, technology is not something that is difficult to build. The big thing is executing this on ground, and so that's where our next challenge will lie. So we're looking at doing this on a pan India level. Hopefully, once we're successful, I can tell you more on the results, whether it's actually even 5% or higher. But essentially, it can save thousands of lives, and so that's kind of what we are doing about it. Um, if you want to know more on that and why we're doing what we're doing, I'm happy to talk about it as well. Any other questions, please shoot.
It's a great initiative, Jehan. Caring about those frontline workers. But coming to a personal front, Jehan, suppose if there is an organization that has a very small segment fleet owner with say 5-10 fleets, so or a very large corporation that has say more than 100 fleets. So what do you think they can do differently for the good health of their drivers?
Are you talking about liquid oxygen drivers, or are you talking about all drivers?
I'm talking about drivers in general.
So I think, what do you call, the first thing our industry should do is pay them higher. If you compare our standards of payment versus what international standards are, they get paid. I think US drivers get paid about $10,000 to $12,000 a month. Canadian even higher. European around the same bracket. We are, 1/10 of that. It's ridiculous. Um, I think fundamentally that has to change. If when that changes, when we start paying them higher, automatically respect will be also given. Automatically, their lifestyles will change. So the first thing the industry needs to do is stop squeezing and marginalizing them. Look after them as if they would any normal staff members. So cover them under ESIC or insurance schemes. Give them that added benefit of support. Try to reduce them from doing chori chakati through diesel and other things. Give them money, more upfront. Give them the respect that they deserve. These are things that they can immediately do. Whether it's 5 acres or 5,000 doesn't matter. I think the problem is that we have a very scarcity mindset, and everybody is just interested to squeeze the last drop of blood from the person. And drivers themselves also, at many times they haven't been the most loyal. And if you see, a lot of them will switch the moment times are either tough or some other company pays higher. But I think, as mature transporters, we need to understand that our job is not only to deliver cargo, but we're bringing joy in a person's life, right? So you can't always think that one person will be with you forever. And regardless of whether he is or not, we have to give our best to that human being and treat him like one. The problem is we don't treat our drivers like humans. Everybody treats them like slaves, and people don't really consider them. And the fact that we call them drivers also has now become a demeaning word for a lot of people. So I think the first step that we are taking in our organization, and this has also been quite recent, it's been this month, is that we're calling them VPs, vehicle pilots. So everybody is indirectly, we're saying we have so many 200 vice presidents in our company, and VPs are vehicle pilots are actually driving these trucks. Obviously, now the ones that are carrying oxygen are even more, looked after. But ideally, the status, the funds, and if we start paying them higher, a lot of they anyways do make it indirectly. So might as well give it to them directly, right? And the idea is that people will say that we don't make enough from the customer doesn't pay us, we don't pay the driver, and that's typically what you will hear. uh, Problem is that everybody is greedy for more. Nobody knows how to say no in our industry. When a customer says, I'm going to reduce your price, they don't have the ability to walk away from the negotiation. And I think that's the biggest strength in a negotiation tactic. You should be able to get up and say no. And so, unfortunately, probably because of the EMIs taken, because of the status of their scale, they aren't able to get out of the mess that they are in, because you enter a debt trap typically in our industry. Um, so that could be one reason that I see that it's difficult to change. But regardless, with second generation youngsters coming in, and I have a lot of colleagues who are around my age, I see a lot of difference in attitudes changing. Of course, it'll take at least 15 years for our line to mature, but regardless, it's happening at a slow pace.
Right. So, a quick and curious question about this entire initiative that you have, Jehan. What inspired you, like from the base, about like there are thousands and hundreds of transporters in India, and they have been doing business like since the 80s, since the 70s, maybe expanding, closing, again starting. But such initiatives are rare, where the entire humanitarian approach about everyone who is involved in the process is seen. The benefits of everyone who is associated with the process is seen. So, what inspired you? Like, what from the ground? What uh, what was your aspiration when you started this initiative?
So my father being a truck driver, of course, we understand their pain. I've seen him when I was very young, not coming home for months. It's a very, very weird feeling, when you don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to return? That time there were no cell phones as well, so they're very difficult to know where your, loved one is. I think humanitarian. Why? Um, to a very large degree, I mean, it's just a part of our culture. I'm a Parsi, and that's kind of what we do. We're known for that. It's in our system. It's the way we are brought up. We've just been told from a very young age that 2/3 of everything you earn must go to charity. Um, so we automatically have to earn more, have to give back 2/3 back to the society anyway. And so I think the humanitarian grounds is just honestly purely a cultural thing. And as far as thinking is concerned, I've been very blessed. I
Mhm.
I have a roof, I have food on the table, clothes to wear, houses to live in. So I'm quite happy and content. The reason for setting these ambitious goals for the country is majorly for making sure that even the 1,000 vehicles is so that we can feed these, that many drivers more. We can give them that much employment. One of my biggest reasons for joining the business was I realized that in 2013, when I had my earlier restaurant business when I was 18. I started that in college while studying, and I figured out that if one, now I realize, of course, digital is the way, but at that time I realized that I could pick up anybody from the street, put them into a truck, give them a job, give them livelihood, food, clothing, shelter, everything, with just a bit of training, and be able to make them employable. So that was the driving force for entering trucking, because we had a shipping vertical as well. And I didn't take that up. I found this more interesting. So the philanthropic part has been ingrained in us. I think a lot of credit would go to my parents for that, because that's how we've been brought up. And humanitarian, I think a large part, like I said, comes from our community. We're, that's how we operate. Everything is built. We build our businesses in a way for society, eh, because once you reach a certain scale, once you reach a few million, it doesn't make any difference. It's just a number on the sheet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh, so quite happy with everything. We've been blessed. Most important, now we are safe. So we just have to count our blessings and keep helping as many people as possible. That's one life, man. What can you do? Make the most of it, right? If you can, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So might as well give it everything you've got and try and reach as many people as possible.
Just making, with all our capabilities, making the world of someone who is associated with you, someone who is in and out with you, surrounding you, making their lives better, helps us live a satisfied life. So
True.
that is, I agree with you completely on this point, and I
That's
wish
right,
you
man.
all the best to your entire team for this work that you're doing. It was great connecting with you.
Thank you.
And to our audience, thank you for joining in. I hope you also had a great time as well. This podcast is powered by Fleetx, which is a connecting logistic automation solution that aims at making logistics more efficient and safe for everyone. Thank you for joining in, guys. Do look forward for our next episode. This is Gaurav Pandya. See you on the other side. Signing off.